sing, 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 sing. Everybody start to sing. La-di-da, ho, ho, ho. Now you're singing with a swing.
Welcome to this special edition of Italics, the first in our month-long series of special programming celebrating October as Italian Heritage and Culture Month here on CUNY TV. I'm your host, Anthony Tamburri. Each October, New York State celebrates Italian American heritage and culture. What began as Italian Culture Week has grown into a month-long itinerary of numerous events spanning the city, state, and country, attracting international participants and arguably having become the largest celebration of all things Italian outside Italy. Joining us for this special edition of Italics, the Honorable Natalia Quintavalle, Consul General of Italy to New York, and Joseph Sciame, President of the Italian Heritage and Culture Month Committee of New York. We're here in the consulate with Minister Natalia Quintavalle. This month is your second-year anniversary as Consul General in New York. You were here before in another role at the United Nations. What were some of your expectations coming back? And in this new role, what were some of the differences, some of the surprises that you found?
I was coming back as Consul General in New York. I was obviously aware of a lot of things, of the big, enormous Italian presence in New York, of the role and importance of the Italian American community, if you want, the generosity and the closeness of the Italian American community to the Italian institutions in New York. So this was already known to me. I was aware of all of that. What in a way surprised me in a very positive way, and I just mentioned the positive.
Just talk about the positive.
Is first of all the quality and dedication of the staff of the consulate. I mentioned the staff of the consulate, but I should say of the Italian institutions in general, because really I found people who were really, really dedicated to offer good services to the Italian and Italian American community. The second aspect, if I may say so, very positive and very interesting for me personally, surprise, is the fact that I had the opportunity to meet a lot of different American, but especially Italian personalities, people I never met in Italy. And I had the opportunity to have contact with them, to listen to them, and I mean, obviously, in the political field, we received the visit of a lot of ministers, and we had the president, the prime minister first Monti, and then very recently Prime Minister Letta. We had obviously the ministers of foreign affairs from Frattini, Terzi to Bonino recently. And, but also many other political personalities. The Minister of Justice last year, Minister Severino, was a wonderful visit we had, and quite recently Minister Chienge. That's very important, but it was not only in the politics. There were visits from people from the cultural world, music. I met here Riccardo Muti. I met people from the jazz, Bollani, Fresu, and Rava. I met people from the cinema, I Fratelli Taviani, wonderful people. Yeah. So really a lot of interesting Italian personalities.
Even Roberto Bolle.
Roberto Bolle was wonderful. Yes. Wonderful, really a beautiful person in all the sense. He's really a very generous personality. He did this beautiful, we were looking at him as a sort of a god.
I mention him because when people think of course, when people think of opera, people think of Italy, but we know opera is produced also elsewhere, right? And when people think of ballet, people think either of Nureyev, of course, and then Russians and the Americans, but people don't necessarily think of Italy when people think of ballet, and yet here we have perhaps one of the best living dancers today.
Yes, absolutely. And there was this beautiful opportunity to see together Bolle with an exhibition we had at the Metropolitan Museum, the Boxer. So I saw some picture of both of them, the one close to the other. It's really an image of Italy. I'm sure that in New York nobody will forget for a long time. Yeah. And then there was the world of sport. I would like to mention something because I had my personal satisfaction was to have the opportunity to run the 5-borough bike together with the mythical Gianni Bugno.
Ah, okay.
So that was my personal satisfaction. To meet another interesting personalities, not only for his success in the world of sport, but also because he's a very dedicated person, dedicated to the education to sport of young people, which I think is important. And another one in the world of sport was Andrea Mura from Sardinia, who won the All-Star, the sailing race from Europe to America. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So these 2 years were really, really full of very, very beautiful surprises for me.
You mentioned the Italian institutions, and of course, the Consulate General and also the Italian Cultural Institute are the first that come to mind. But what are some of the other institutions, Italian institutions, with which you as Consul General collaborate?
Yes, we work obviously with institutions like not only the Italian Cultural Institute, but the Trade Commission, the Tourist Office, obviously. But we have a very, very important relationship with Banca d'Italia, the office of Banca d'Italia, La Scuola d'Italia, and also the 3 cultural institutes, Italian institutes in the 3 main universities of New York, starting from the Calandra Institute at CUNY, and then the Casa Italiana Zerilli Merimo and NYU, and the Italian Academy of Columbia. I think that all together we are really doing a good job and presenting a wonderful image of Italy.
And this year was even more challenging than regular because this year is 2013 Year of Italian Culture in the United States, which originated with Minister Terzi.
That's correct. It was originated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs under Minister Terzi, and is under the auspices of the President of the Republic of Italy, President Napolitano. And I think we are looking at the end of 2013, but I hope not at the end of the effect of what we did in 2013. In New York, we had a lot of very interesting events. You mentioned Bolle, I mentioned the Boxer, but there were many, many other things. And it's not yet finished because from here to the end of the year, we will have other important exhibits at the Italian Cultural Institute. We will have Raffaello very soon, St. Catherine of Alexandria, an exhibit at the Istituto. We will have Leonardo at the Morgan Library with the Codice del Volo. Then we will have Machiavelli at the Italian Cultural Institute and also at the Columbia University, 2 different symposia and exhibitions.
Machiavelli, it's 500 years.
Yes, absolutely. And mentioning anniversaries, we will have something for the 200th anniversary of Verdi. We will have a concert from the Cameristi della Scala. And then we will have another exhibition here toward the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, we had some paintings of Nunziante in this same room. And we will have some sculptures from Giorgio Milani, who does a very important work on words, literature in sculpture.
In fact, this room in which we are right now, I've noticed that in the last 6 to 8 months there's been a change, correct? It's become more of an exhibit room as well as a conference room.
Yes, that's the idea. We would like, we started with the celebration of the 2nd of June, our National Day, and we decided to try and exploit a little bit better the value of this building. This is a very beautiful building in a wonderful location. The Italian Cultural Institute also is very close to us. And I think it's important that we can have in these buildings, both of them, something which can show Italian culture. And so here we have some works that were pieces of arts which were recuperated by the Carabinieri in their fight against illegal export of pieces of arts. And we work with them, and normally they gather things from around the United States, and then they ship it back to Italy starting from this consulate. So we asked them to let us enjoy for a while.
So this is art that was illegally appropriated when during World War II?
No, it can...
It's all over.
Yes, it's just a matter of illegal export.
And there were some major institutions involved, the biggest being the Getty.
Yes.
It was all over the newspapers.
There is now an agreement between Italy and the Getty Museum, which is facilitating a lot to the work of the Carabinieri, to be sure. And the idea is not that we want really to bring it back at any price. We just want these pieces to be recognized as illegally exported, just to stop and to prevent other illegal exportation for the future. Mm-hmm. And I would like to use this space a little bit more for exhibit in the future and for hosting also events. And this is the reason why I'm thinking to changing something else. We have to do some works for the safety and security of the personnel and also of the visitors and the public who comes every day to the consulate. And then we will need some works to be done because we are expecting our work to increase due to the closure of the consulate in Newark. And finally, I think that what we can do is just to try and use this floor, which is not only this room, but 2 other rooms, including mine, for events, which imply that I have to move my office from this beautiful floor a little bit up, but I think it's worthwhile.
You mentioned all the visits that you've had, and most recently, of course, there were 2 very important visits, I think. And one was Minister Kyenge, who is the Minister of Integration and Youth, and the other being, of course, the Minister Bonino, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and both of them were here recently, and you introduced them to the Italian American community. And I don't think that has happened as often in the past. And I don't mean just I just mean in general. I think your predecessor opened up the consulate as well, as you're doing. But I think in the past there was maybe a little bit of a difference where and not just Italians, I think it happens in all the diplomatic roles, that they come, they do their job, whatever, and maybe stay closed up a little bit. But this consulate has opened up significantly in that sense.
Yes, we like the idea that ministers who have something to say to our community and to the American friends. We did with Monti, and we did it recently, as you said, with Minister Kyenge and Minister Bonino. I think that really, talking about the last two visits, they have, both of them, something to say and to communicate to our friends here in New York. And I know, because they asked me, people in New York, they wanted to have the possibility to meet with them. So it was the convergence of the interest from both sides. I think both of them were received very well. And Minister Kyenge made a very interesting intervention, looking at the similarities and differences between the actual immigration in Italy from the south of Mediterranean and the immigration from Italy to the United States.
È molto importante e interessante, quindi io parto da qui perché in questo momento nelle scuole italiane, ma anche con il vostro contributo, il contributo degli italiani all'estero, quella di aumentare la storia dell'emigrazione, perché è collegato un po' anche con l'immigrazione. Quindi io vi faccio un appello, quello di riuscire a venirci incontro, a raccontarci le vostre belle esperienze come testimoni, come storie, perché sono quelli che possono riuscire a far cambiare le cose. Noi in questo momento abbiamo un'immigrazione così massiva, iniziata all'inizio degli anni 90, quindi io sono arrivato un po' prima, negli anni 80, sto facendo un po' un percorso di quello che hanno fatto anche tanti italiani all'estero, quindi il mio sogno era quello di diventare medico, però da medico poi adesso sono diventata anche ministra, quindi è fondamentale riuscire a capire l'importanza anche del contributo di persone che possono nascere in un altro paese, che possono avere un bagaglio culturale e far capire che le diversità, le culture quando si incontrano si arricchiscono, quindi evitare lo scontro, perché la ricchezza di un paese proviene anche da questa, da avere la capacità di mettere insieme, condividere dei percorsi insieme proprio a disposizione del paese.
Infatti ha detto durante i suoi commenti che la diversità sono una forza.
Sì, è proprio così. È per quello che io vi chiedo anche, magari se riusciamo anche attraverso storie raccontate di italiani all'estero, di far capire l'opportunità che è stato dato a tante altre persone che hanno lasciato l'Italia, sono andati in altro paese e sono riusciti a occupare posti molto importanti, contribuendo allo sviluppo di altri paesi. Riuscire a far capire che quando si dà l'opportunità a una persona non è soltanto la persona che ne guadagna, è tutto lo Stato.
And she said a very important thing, in my opinion. She said, I'm the Minister of Integration, but I would like to be the Minister of Interazione, in Italian. Without the G, it means that she values very much the dialogue. And so that's what we want to offer to her and to Minister Bonino afterwards, the possibility to interact and to talk, to have a dialogue with our community.
She's, in a general sense, the first hyphenated minister, but she is also the first African-Italian minister.
She's the first African-Italian minister, and she arrived in Italy some 30 years ago. And she acquired the nationality, and she's really the example of how integration in Italy can work. So I think it's really perfect for the role, and she is doing a very important. Also, she was very clear in speaking about the fact that she was exposed to some attacks. And she was very clear on that. She said very clearly, Italy is not that. Right. And I think she is completely right. Yeah. She said, this is not Italy, I know another Italy, right. And certainly I know, okay.
And Minister Bonino was also, she was very open. Yeah. She spoke for a long time, which was great. She didn't just come and say hello and then leave. And she had to deal with, of course, the issue you mentioned before, and that is the closing of the consulate in Newark.
Io so di aver dato ad alcuni un dispiacere, e si tratta del consolato di New York. Noi abbiamo bisogno di razionalizzare, di rendere più efficienti, ma anche di razionalizzare la rete che abbiamo avuto tradizionalmente. Noi abbiamo bisogno di chiedere a voi, certamente, un po' di disagi, cercando di dare servizi in un'altra parte del mondo dove siamo completamente scoperti e dove sono scoperti tanti italiani come voi. E mi auguro soprattutto che il vostro sostegno, il vostro amore per il nostro paese, per il paese dove abitate, ma anche per il paese, diciamo, di origine, sia una sinergia importante. Anche per valorizzare quello che siamo, valorizzare i nostri asset, e certamente il nostro asset più importante sono le risorse umane.
We have more or less 60,000 Italian registered here in New York, and they have in Newark 17,000.
17,000 more people.
It's quite an increase of our work, obviously. I think that Minister Bonino was very clear. There are reasons behind that. It's not a spot decision. It's not just Newark. They are closing 14 different diplomatic and consular places, and to be able to open 3 more. In the sense that 14 closure vis-a-vis 3 openings of posts. And these are in China, Vietnam, where there are, yes, less Italian, but Italian with different, and in some cases, more difficult needs to be satisfied. So that's the reason behind all that, and they are closing a lot of consulate in Europe, which makes sense, even bigger than Newark, with the population, an Italian population bigger than Newark. But Minister Bonino said very clear the decision is taken. Certainly everybody has the right to bring arguments and to support another approach. From my side, there is just one thing I can say. The decision was not taken by me, but it's there. And I have to prepare myself and to prepare my consulate to be able to offer to the community of New Jersey the best services possible. So I asked Minister Bonino, and I found her very attentive to my request that my consulate be strengthened accordingly to the increase in the work.
Yeah, because the office has a certain staff that already is challenged by the current
current affairs. Yes.
Well, you're here for at least another 2 years. I know sometimes people get extended. We never know, but you're here for definitely at least another 2 years. So what do you see on the horizon?
First of all, I see something very good coming from this year we spent in promoting the Italian culture, and we will continue in 2014. And then we are preparing for what will happen in 2015, which is the big expo, Universal Exposition, which is Milano Expo 2015. This is very big for us and for Italy, I mean, and the relationship not only commercial trade and so on, but also cultural and political and many different aspects. But it's important, especially for us here in New York, because in these very days, the US administration is taking the decision to participate, and we hope that the decision will be positive. And then we have to work with the Americans to see how the US can be present, not in a big, gigantic way, just to affirm that the US is the biggest country in the world, but be there with something of very high quality to show that the theme of the Milano Expo is agriculture, is feeding the planet, energy for all, and for life. So it's something, a message which is very important, very new from the environmental point of view, from the economic point of view, from many different aspects. And I hope that we can here work to ensure that the US presence will be a very qualified one with something technological advanced, something which shows, which can show innovation, and accordingly with this idea of to be in line with environmental standards and requirements. So I think this is really for the future one of the most important things.
Well, thank you for inviting us into your home here and also for taking the time to spend with us.
Thank you, and this is not my home, it's your home.
Joseph Sciame, President of the Italian Heritage and Culture Committee of New York, welcome to Italics.
Thank you.
This is sort of becoming a tradition here with you in your capacity as President of the Italian Heritage and Culture Committee. So let me ask, this year it's a doubly special celebration in that we have our regular October month, Italian Heritage and Culture Committee, but we also have 2013 Year of Italian Culture in the United States.
Well, and this is a full-packed year. As you know, Anthony, traditionally the Italian Heritage and Culture Month Committee has always issued a formal and official poster linked in with the theme for the year. This year it was a challenge because what theme does one carry through with so much culture in Italy and in the United States, brought over by our wonderful ancestors and grandparents and parents. So this year we focused in on one major poster. Of course, it is the Apollo, the David by Michelangelo, which has now been on display in Washington's National Gallery. So that's the main theme. And then in ensuing posters, which are evidenced on our website, we've done a special tribute to Giuseppe Verdi because of his 200th anniversary this year on October the 10th. And then we have the ensuing themes of the new generation, the tastes of Italy, saluting cooking and the cuisines of Italy. We've done architecture, sculpture, of course, is covered by the Apollo, and so much more.
Right. There are, I think, 9 themes in general.
Exactly.
Right. And I should say that the we can call him the resident artist of the Italian Heritage and Culture Committee, John DeSantis, put together actually all 10 posters.
He's
the
phenomenal.
Principal poster and then the 9. Yeah.
We've designated him as the artistic director for the IHCC New York.
So along with this celebration of 2013 Year of Italian Culture in the United States, coupled with the regular programming that usually takes place in the greater New York metropolitan area, that is then included in the booklet that the committee produces. The booklet has become a little bit larger this year than before.
It has become larger, and we want to thank you publicly and let the broadcasting viewers know of the role that the John D. Calandra Institute, under your leadership, has taken with the assistance of your staff One of your staff, Joan Marchi Migliori, has been tremendous in helping to raise the needed funds through the recommendations that we make to her. But the booklet, yes, it is 1/4 size larger than last year. And the reason for this is that we had the visit of Ambassador Claudio Bisognero to the gallery of the exhibit of the posters back in April. And he was so impressed with the posters and the themes that we carried out that they asked if we could list some of the programs that were being shown nationally. And so in the booklet, one would see from October, November, December, right through the end of the year, what the Embassy of Italy is promoting. And it's very exciting. Many programs, all too much for one. One could be out every night.
We should remind our viewers, even though it takes place every year, basically each borough has an event. Usually it's the borough president. Sometimes even our city controller has an event, and our state controller, Tom Di Napoli, also
Correct.
has an event. Those events are going to take place again this year.
All of the events are listed in the brochure that we knew at the time of publication. There have been an additional one here or there, but each of the boroughs will have an event. We know that the City Council is been considering having an event, of course, with the election that's just taken place. I'm not sure of the date, but our own state comptroller and true friend to all of us, Tom Di Napoli, will have his on October 24th. That is a date that I know at 6 p.m. in New York City at the Manhattan campus of St. John's University.
So the Manhattan campus is still open?
Our Manhattan campus, yes. As Vice President for Community Relations, I can say that it is yet open for one more year. And that has been the site, as you know, of many of our events concerning l'Italianità. We've had wonderful events with our good colleague and friend Vincenzo Mara for the Italian Language Intercultural Alliance. So we will miss that site, but we will find another location.
We'll find another, and we can find probably somewhere in one of the CUNY campuses in Manhattan, I'm sure, if not the Institute itself, depending on the size of the event. So we have this celebration, but we still have some challenges, don't we, in the Italian-American community?
Well, in my opinion, the challenges have been there for generations. I think they were there when our grandparents and parents arrived. But at the same time, I think we have made inroads. I do see a lessening in some instances of going after Italian Americans in the press, in the media, but every once in a while it does pop up. There was an incident recently up in the Albany, Schenectady area where a food truck, had denigrating words on it. And of course, those that are involved in the Italian American community, namely the Commission for Social Justice of the Order Sons of Italy in America, did go after them. And they did stop a parade of truckers in that township. So it was ceased. However, the challenges, in my opinion, are always there, and one has to be vigilant about it.
That's an interesting incident, because that's an incident where we can say the most offensive word used with respect to Italians was pasted on the truck, and the truck it's a food truck, and the truck is owned by 2 Italian Americans.
Yes.
So while there are all these conversations, who can say what word, and this is something that goes on in all ethnic groups. Every ethnic group has its 1 or 2 words that no one should pronounce and that are extremely offensive, et cetera, right? But that sort of within the tribe we can use them. In this case, it's a question of the tribe using it publicly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, which creates other issues.
Among one another, if one was denigrating, it might be understandable. It was behind closed doors, but this was a public truck being witnessed by all. Interestingly enough, only yesterday, I was on a blog for the Italian Journal, and it was interesting because a Polish gentleman wrote in about the traumas that the Polish community has had for generations and making fun of them with all the many Polish American jokes. So each ethnic group seems to have this. That's why we have to be very positive. That's why in the publication of the poster of the brochure, of the booklet announcing all the programs, this portrays Italian American activity not just in October, but in the ensuing months in a very positive light. And then, of course, we have the challenge of the Italian language, which you, as a prominent educator promoting the Italian language now for perhaps 30, 40 years of your life, you know how important that is.
Yeah, and we still have challenges with the advanced placement exam that our viewers should know, because we have until 2016 to arrive at a benchmark of 2,500 students who actually take the exam, and because there's a bit of a nuance there, a difference between the students who register for the exam as opposed to the students who take the exam. And the College Board, which is which administers the exam, has given us that benchmark of 2,500 of those who take the exam. And I think this past year, this latest iteration of the exam, we arrived at something like 1,880 some odd who took the exam. So we have like 2 other iterations, 2 or 3, in which we have to get to that mark. And it really is a question of the community making sure that Italian is being taught in many school districts, and we're coming to find out that in some cases there are communities with high Italian American population, and Italian isn't being taught in those schools.
I think, if anything, your viewing audience can assist in that regard, wherever they might live, to check with the local high schools to see if Italian is being offered, number one. If it is, great. And what about the advanced placement in Italian? And then they also have the opportunity, even if they've not been in an advanced placement course itself, they can still persist and take the examination separately. So that would be something to help the cause. But we really are in this together, because the Italian government, as you recall, invested $1.5 million, and the Italian American community came up with the other $1.5 million needed. And we all thought that this was guaranteed for life, but we have found out since that it is not. We need the numbers.
Speaking of numbers, the many events that are taking place, they are basically well attended. And I know in the 7 years, it's now 7 years, in the 7 years that I've been here, that number keeps growing, and with pleasure, I should say. Yes. In the 7 years I've been here in New York, I've noticed that there are more and more people who come to these events, and it's a nice sort of indirect educational tool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know that we have a copy of the booklet, which, as you know, portrays all of the various programs, and I think it relates the events at the borough president's offices or the municipal areas where we're having them. But it also is a work, the time and effort that goes into it to convey what the essence of the various programs will be. It's instructional, and I think, as you just said, the attendance has been incredible. So I think we can be very proud of what we are doing.
Now, let's divert a little bit, and let's talk politics in some ways, but not necessarily policy-wise. We have an exciting election coming up, I think, from an ethnic point of view, although people say, and rightfully so, you don't vote for someone just because of their ethnicity or whatever. But we have one sort of full-fledged candidate, although he's part German and part Italian, but he really wears his Italian identity on his sleeve, for sure, Bill de Blasio. And then I understand that our Republican candidate is also part Italian.
Yes, Joe Lota is half Czech, as well as quarter Italian and a quarter Jewish. This is what my reading is of what I read in the paper. And I think it's exciting. I think in either case, we Italian Americans, we are winners, because we will have a colleague, someone whose roots go back to Italy. So that's exciting. In terms of the politics of it all, we hope that each of the candidates will continue to support the Italian American community in many ways.
That's more or less what I was getting at, and that is we have a very strong presence in both the Assembly and the Senate state level. The John D. Calandra Italian American Institute wouldn't exist without their work almost 35 years ago in funding and help found the Institute, and also the continued funding throughout the years. of course, we have an Italian-American governor now, and I guess in one way or another, we're going to have a little bit of Italian-American
Yes.
in the Italian-Americanness in the City Hall. And so the idea is not politics qua politics, but the idea that maybe our Italianità or Italian heritage will get a little bit more play.
I'm hoping so, and I think it's an ongoing, not so much a battle, it's not even a skirmish. It's just that we want to be out there, and we want to be acknowledged more for our contributions. In fact, the Italian Heritage and Culture Committee is working on a very exciting project, as you know, because you've been assisting with it. We are putting together a guidebook on the various monuments and sites that have been designed, created, sculptured by Italians and Italian Americans in the great city of New York and the surrounding areas. And this is the first time I've been able to really sit back and see all of the works. I mean, when one walks across the street at the public library here in New York City, one takes for granted that those two lions came out of nowhere. Well, they're part of the works of the Picciarelli studios, of which Attilio and his brothers, I think there were 6 of them, they produced some of the most fabulous works, not to mention the famous Lincoln statue at the Lincoln Memorial.
Right.
And I think the average New Yorker would have hardly an idea that that was the case. So I think if we can do that kind of education through our booklets, I think this is going to be very informative. But I think we have to be vigilant to keep the politicians aware of our role, whether that be at the local level, the city level, the state level, or even the national level. We know that President Obama will traditionally issue a letter commending the Italian-American community for the month of October. Of course, we'd like to see more of that. We'd like to see that almost more permanently put into the laws of this country. So right now it's a resolution or a letter that's issued.
We should also say, give credit to Mayor Bloomberg, who back in 2008 declared Italian as one of the 6 languages in which municipal information had to be available. And because there's still a large population of Italian-speaking citizens, residents of New York City. And so that was, I think, very important, and also showed a certain sensitivity on the part of the mayor in that regard. It also, however, creates a bit of a problem for us within the community with regard to the language, because Italian is both an ethnic language, as it is a language of communication for the group that resides, whether it's here in New York or in any other community, but it is also, of course, a language of culture and of international culture. And that, I think, has been a little bit of the challenge in the last 10, 15 years, is after 100 and some odd years of Italian presence in this country, mostly considered immigrants or children of immigrants, to make people aware of the fact that Italian is indeed a language of a really great culture.
And I think also tangentially related to all this is the current influx of young Italians coming here. I think that, to me, is most interesting. So we might say that Italian is not used in the city, but it is being used more and more. Our Italian restaurants they're just bursting here, I think, in New York. And many of the chefs are remarkable, Italian-speaking, from the towns that we read about. Recently, I was at the International Culinary Institute, and I just was amazed at the number of Americans, not necessarily Italian Americans, studying to eventually go abroad and learn Italian cooking in a very professional way. And within a 30-week program, this can be accomplished. So I think it's an exciting time. Of course, this is caused by the job situation, we all believe, in Italy, where young Italians have something to offer. They want to come to this great country called America and this great city of New York and try to make their way. So I think it's a different kind of immigration.
It is. Some people sort of half-jokingly call it an immigration di lusso, of luxury. There's really no way to translate that in English, but a sort of luxurious one. Or some of us say they're coming over with leather suitcases, where our grandparents and parents came over with the proverbial cardboard suitcase. But yeah, no, I think you're correct. I think through something like cuisine, although Italian cuisine has become sort of the American cuisine par excellence in a way, right? Beyond steak and potatoes. But through cuisine, through cinema, and through other art forms such as opera and theater, that we've progressed, and I think that's that's an excellent progress. I like the idea of the younger generation coming over, although in some cases they're forced to come over, and yes. But it helps continue a certain dialogue and create an even more exciting dialogue with this new young immigration. Let me ask you something. I don't want to put you on the spot by saying which activity we should go to, which one is but some of the activities in the book, just so our viewers might know, what are the one or two activities that come to mind in addition to the celebrations by our elected officials?
Well, I think on Friday, October the 11th, at 12 noon sharp, at Hunter College, at Poses Park, which is at the intersection of 68th Street and Lexington Avenue, there is the famed Mother Italy statue. And that is where we traditionally hold a flag-raising ceremony. We usually acknowledge someone on the committee in the Italian-American community. This year we'll be giving a nice salute and thank you to a gentleman called Joseph DiPietro. He is the president of the Federation of Italian-American Organizations in the borough of Queens. Joe has been an indefatigable worker for us all, not only physically with his music, his sound system, but he's given leadership to the Queens community with the Federation. But I think that would be a very important event that for as many Italian Americans to be there. Of course, then the next one is on the Monday right after that, which is Monday the 14th, I believe, in which we have the Columbus Day Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral, at which traditionally the Cardinal Archbishop of New York celebrates the Mass. Italian is spoken. And then the parade with the Columbus Citizens Foundation. And that promises to be a great parade with thousands and thousands of people.
And you'll be there with two groups, basically, right?
Well, what I do is I march with the Order Sons of Italy in America as a national and state past president. And then what I wind up doing is leaving them after we cross in front of the cathedral, and then I run back to the St. John's University contingent group, because that's a proud group. We have an Italian Cultural Center at St. John's promoting our heritage. In fact, we've got major events coming up now, a lecture in October and November. So there are very many events. I think the month of October, and actually September and November, they all afford us the opportunity to espouse what we feel within our hearts and minds. We know that we come from a great people. We know that we are just filled with culture. Oftentimes we don't know how to express it. So that's why when I mentioned about the culinary situation, that is one of the themes that was put into a poster, that we need to talk about the taste of Italy, not just having a slice of pizza, but what is the pizza like?
Yeah.
Is it too thin? Is it too thick? Is the sauce made well? Sometimes I think we marginalize this in the market, and I think we have to raise our standards.
I'm going to mention two other events that are going to take place in the month of October. And one is a collaboration that we will be doing at the Klein Institute with ASMEF, which is the Associazione Meridionale Futuro, that is the Association of Southern Italy, the future of Southern Italy. And then, of course, in November, actually, at the beginning of November, with our friend Vincenzo Marragan in Ilica, there will be a two-day event, the first day being Italian identity in the third millennium. We're going to explore that again. This will be the fourth edition of that, the fourth and final. And then he will have, of course, his large dinner gala that he has on Friday, and that'll be taking place in New York City. And that event as well is also in the booklet.
Yes.
We're going to be bumping into each other on almost a daily basis during October, but I want to thank you for coming here today. Thank you.
Happy Columbus Day weekend.
Thank you. We hope you enjoyed this special episode of Italics. For more information on Italian Heritage and Culture Month events, go to italyculturemonth.org. Our next Italian Heritage and Culture Month special, airing October 17th, for Italics, I'm Anthony Tamburri. Arrivederci alla prossima puntata.
For details, updates, and to watch episodes online, become an Italics fan at facebook.com/ItalicsIATV. Subscribe to Italics TV on YouTube and follow the Calandra Institute on Twitter at CalandraItal.
Sing, 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 sing. Everybody start to sing. La-di-da, ho, ho, ho. Now you're singing with a swing. Singing with a swing. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do- Day.